Yeah, for sure.
as well as their children after them.
Down the river here, there was a Confederate fort, and there were cannons, and some of them were dropped into the river. They moved them up to Fredericksburg, and there have been some divers that went out and looked for the cannon. I don't think they found any cannons, but when you mention cannons,
Well, what I believe I found is if the bore size and all that, I've gone through all the British war records, the naval records, and it would have been a 9-pounder long gun, possibly. But it's just the very front of the gun itself, if that is what it is.
so the barrel was broken off?
Yeah, it's definitely.
You sure
it's
it's
a
not a piece of pipe, maybe?
Well, I've looked into that as well, and when looking into older cast iron pipes and sewage, and I'm a contractor myself, so I see a lot of it, but the bell on the ends of those things are quite substantial, and this one actually has a forge line through it where you can see where it was actually forged. So that brings me to more interest with the item. Not necessarily saying it is a cannon or a pipe. There's no telling unless it was carbon dated or whatever else having to do with that. But the depth of the find was the same depth as this item. It was very, very close to this item. It was within, I'd say, 25 feet of the item, and it had a lead rod wrapped around the end of the barrel that had bent over top of the barrel. And I have the lead rod, and I know we don't really have lead rods nowadays. That's something that's, quite a bit older. So I'm not sure. Obviously, that's one thing why I want to try to, find out some more about this kind of stuff.
This looks like it's broken here too, isn't it?
Yeah.
It would have been longer, a little bit anyway.
Yeah, I agree. It should have had a shackle at the bottom of it, at the base of it.
I looked online a little bit about oar locks or row locks, they sometimes call them. And it seems like they came in around the mid-19th century. Earlier than that, they would have had wooden, like 2 pieces of wood with the oar between it. So I think they probably go back more to the mid, 19th century to when they started.
Yeah, I agree that that's probably correct. I've been looking at I've been trying to find out a lot of the iron items on some of these vessels back in the day, obviously towards that period, and to find out what type of irons they would have used, where they would have used these materials, and so on. And obviously, I've found so many objects. I've found objects, as you can see, from early 1900s. I found wine bottles from 1920s and all sorts of stuff. It's kind of just the documentation of the depths, and that's how I kind of read the depths. I used to be on Seven Pines battlefield, and I found a lot of Confederate copper rings, or possibly Union copper rings, and that was how I dated. I would find, so much from our period, and then the deeper I went, the deeper. And those were about 6 inches in the mud on that battlefield particularly. We actually lived on part of the battlefield. So it's really interesting
how the little stones have become sort of fossilized or attached to this thing.
Yeah, that's the concretion, and the possible gun or pipe I have had a substantial amount of concretion around it. It started wearing out as the object had set. I've been trying to get in touch with y'all for a little while. I've been trying to get in touch with a lot of people for a little while, and I'm so glad that y'all were able to contact me and get back with me. I really appreciate the time.
No problem, but it's hard this time of.
Oh yeah, with all this going on too.
Because we're not open actually, and it's been a challenge. But this was at the courthouse.
Oh, this cannon?
It's an actual Civil War northern cannon.
And look at the ironwork on it. I mean, and everything I'm pulling is iron. It's just substantial amounts of iron, which leads me to believe that possibly a lot of these finds are coming from the 1800s, roughly, probably, possibly the 1812, and all that action there. But going back even to the Civil War, I've found the Union documents, but all the Confederate documents are lost.
Oh dear.
So I do know that there are ships in Urbana that were from the American blockade where the British had destroyed them, taken them, or whatever. But I did find out that one of the ships had left the blockade, came up the river, they chased it through the night, and at a bend in the river up in the Rappahannock here, the ship disappeared. One of the racer, there was the Arab, and another ship were the three that they took.
1812, yeah. Let me show you something. We have a picture of one of those ships, because there was a replica. I don't know if you were aware of it or saw it. I went down to Yorktown to see it.
Oh wow, no.
Sorry about this with our Christmas decoration. But this was the Lynx, and that was one of the ones that was captured in the Rappahannock in 1813.
That's amazing.
It was sold to the Royal Navy, and they renamed it the Moscadobit, but they...
Yeah, Hyman, I believe, was the one that, or Wood. It was either Hyman or Wood was the ones who attacked the American line there. And some documents say 7 ships, some say 17, so depending on the documentation you look at. But I have the British Navy's records all the way back then, where he captured 3 of these ships, took them into Urbana, set them ablaze and scuttled them, and then they chased one up the river. So maybe one day I'll be able to jump into Urbana and find something interesting.
Probably. This was a really nice replica. It had the cannons on it, and they sailed it all around the East Coast.
And see, yeah, that was my wonder is obviously like just a simple rowboat like that would have had an oar attachment, very similar, I imagine. But
I don't know when this oarlock. I mean, it might have been pre-oarlock. They might have had a wooden something. I don't know. From what I briefly gathered, it was something in the 1850s when they started these, but I could be wrong about that too. Like I say, I'm no expert on it, but.
Well, no, I appreciate just any information. Obviously you know a lot of the history of the area, and that's really what I was interested in, was the history here.
Well, we have this on the river.
That's incredible. Y'all have a lot more than I originally thought, too.
Yeah, we have right much here. Of course, the oystering. This is basically about the oyster. The Rappahannock oyster is kind of world famous, and.
They did a regatta down here too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. Very cool stuff. And a lot of this stuff too is, I'm sure as you understand, a lot of stuff's concreted. It's very hard to determine what it is because it is in a concretion layer. Like this, for instance, this piece here, it was just a simple ring. But I took the concretion off around it to be able to see what it was.
And what that almost looks like a
galvanized washer.
A washer. I was trying to think of the word washer. That's what it looks like, a washer.
I don't know necessarily if that's ultra early period. I know by the concretion, it had a substantial amount of concretion around it.
Yeah.
And whenever you look up the term concretion, it always goes to shipwrecks. But I've even been looking at the chemical analysis for how these things happen, and it takes the iron from the object, and the salt content from the sand to make that happen. And what I've noticed too is I've pulled lots of objects out of the dirt and soil before, but I've never seen such heavily substantiated concretion at such depth, and I've never found objects at such depth. I've never found objects this size either. So I have 2 different finds from 2 different periods. So a couple of the finds are on the trailer, and they're, I believe they are later.
Hello.
Hi,
Hey.
I'm Jean Fortress.
Okay, I'm David Jett.
Oh, it's nice to meet you.
Good
I've
to
seen
meet
your
you.
name.
This is
Eric Ramsey.
Eric Ramsey.
How you doing today?
Visiting us with some artifacts that he had found. So you're going to be our administrative assistant. Maybe.
I'm more of an accountant. I'm gonna
right,
try on the administrative assistant part.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Yeah, your credentials are impressive. Very
Oh, thank you.
surprised that you want to work with us. Are you retired from the other?
I've resigned from my last position to take some time off, and, trying to go back. I was working for nonprofits,
Uh-huh,
and there weren't very many positions open.
gotcha.
So I found some other things to do with my time.
Uh-huh, sure.
And then it took, after the years, I decided I was basically semi-retired.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because I was competing with people younger than me.
Oh, yeah, tell me
Well,
about it.
because
Yeah.
I've got such good broad experience, they thought that I would want too much money,
Uh-huh,
or that I wouldn't stay.
yeah, gotcha.
So, but right now, I'm at the point where this job is perfect.
Oh, I'm glad.
Or at least I hope it is.
Yeah, well, it's challenging, I would say, but,
I'm really excited about it. I was very impressed when I walked in the door and I saw the place.
I've been here for 16 years, believe it or not. I'm the curator, and that's the only curator I was the first person they hired.
Mm-hmm.
And, but they've been talking about hiring not administrators, but, executive director. They've been talking about that ever since I started here for 16 years, and now they're saying, okay, we're interviewing people, and I'm like, I can't believe it's happening. But I think it's gonna be good. It's gonna be something very different. I think it's gonna be interesting to see that process unfold.
Right.
And, so,
Yeah, I felt like I was coming at an exciting time for the
yeah, it is.
organization.
Have you seen the back, what they've done back there?
I was here yesterday for a little bit, but I saw that they graded it since I
Yeah.
left.
It
And
looks really
seated,
good.
It looks like.
It looks great. I don't wanna keep you from
Yeah, that's
what
fine.
you're doing, but it's good to meet you. Now, where do you live?
I live in King and Queen County,
King and Queen.
near the courthouse area.
Okay.
So it's, like another 17 or 18 miles off of 360.
Uh-huh.
And the same distance to the road